This year for Comic-Con 2019 in San Diego, we are doing an activation at the LEGO booth, and we have a bunch of these dioramas that are 10-inch by 10-inch on a 32 by 32 stud base plate. And the idea is that there will be a bunch of different scenes that really connect with the fans as they walk through, and there's a minifigure portion of this where they can go through and build their own minifigure through different parts, and then they can place a minifigure on these scenes wherever they want and take a photograph. So we have a lot of IP partners that we did, and then we have some fan build creations as well.
Hi, my name is Flynn DeMarco and I am from Oakland, California, and I've been building on my own with LEGO for about 5 years. I actually created 2 models for this San Diego Comic-Con project. So the first piece I did is called the Mermaid's Grotto, and it's a underwater scene with lots of colorful fish and coral and of course mermaids and undersea creatures, and you can really sort of get an idea that you are underwater and hanging out under the sea. The other project is called A Boat Ride to Candyland, and you get on a colorful boat and sail down the Candy River of Candyland, seeing all of the giant pieces of candy and desserts all around and saying a special hello to the gingerbread man.
My name is Tristan Cain. I'm working as a designer here at the model shop in Enfield, Connecticut, and I've been with the LEGO group for 4 years. So our IP partner, Marvel, wanted a scene for San Diego Comic-Con. So they wanted an armory style scene that encapsulated all of the characters. Loosely based off of Avengers Mansion from the comics. We start here with an Iron Man armory with 4 suits, and then we have a couch that is raised up with Black Widow's cufflinks and her batons. Under the computer here we have Captain America's shield, and then back here behind the bookcase we have Hawkeye's bow and arrow, and then we have Thor's hammer with their classic comic book colors behind them. And then prominently right in the background, behind where the minifigures will stand, is the Avengers A. In addition to the dioramas that we made for our partners, we also wanted to come up with some brand new ideas to build and showcase at San Diego Comic-Con. So I was tasked with coming up with a generic scene that people would like to put a minifigure with. And everybody loves giant robots. So I figured, why not build one? So I did it based on a tall hangar bay with the robot, and then the minifigure can go anywhere underneath or in front, around, and in classic LEGO red and yellow.
So I just started my whole design process with the underwater piece. I pretty much had a very clear picture in my head of what I wanted that to look like. I really wanted to use forced perspective so that when a picture was taken of the model, it would look like the back of it was really, really far away and the stuff in the front was closer to you, even though it's really only about 10 or 12 inches away. The Candyland piece, that one was a little harder. I had a rough time in the beginning trying to figure out exactly what it was I was going to do. But once I sort of settled on the large color blocking, it became a lot easier. I was really inspired by the work of Peter Max, who did a lot of really amazing sort of psychedelic artwork in the 60s, lots of big blocks of color.
So we are very lucky here at LEGO that we have an entire wall dedicated to bricks sorted by color and element. So it's fairly easy to find what you're looking for as long as you know which section it's in. So when I started designing this, I had a tray of parts in front of me, plates and bricks, and then for any specialty elements that I needed, it was pretty easy to find and just snap them together.
So my design process is pretty organic. I do usually do some drawings, I'll look for inspirational photos and things like that, but I really am better building with a hands-on approach. So especially for the Mermaid Grotto piece, it was a lot of like, does this plant look good here? No, not so much. Okay, how about over here? Oh, this looks great. Okay, now I'm gonna put this fish here. Well, now the fish is here, but the plant doesn't look good anymore, so now it's time to move that around. And those aren't the kinds of things you can really plan out ahead of time until you really just have all the pieces in front of you.
Designing this model, I started with the layout of the different sections that I wanted. So first I laid out the floor, and I wanted a specific area for the minifigures to go so that it wouldn't block anything and it would kind of lead people to a focal point so they could snap their photo from. So the minifigure will go here on this spinning disc, and then that will be in front of the computers, the couches, the TV, the bookcase, and the Avengers A. So all that will be in the background. So I started with the doorway here once I built the walls, and then I did the Iron Man case first, and then I moved to the bookcase, then the Avengers A, and then everything in the foreground, which I made sure was short enough not to block any of the details in the background.
Both the models have a very sort of rounded tops. With the Mermaid Grotto, it looks like waves on the top. With the Candyland piece, it's clouds. And so there's these large clouds, and it sort of breaks out of the squareness of the box. And I really like sort of using these flat pieces, one in front of the other, to create this forced perspective look that I used. In the Mermaid's Grotto, there's a tiny microscale castle that's built in the very back corner, so it looks like there's a castle really, really far in the background while you're hanging out with the mermaids and dolphins in the front part of the area.
The hand was the hardest part for me to design. It was the most challenging because getting the fingers on a mech just right is very important, and I didn't want to use any one-piece elements. So for the hands, I used some hinges attached to the T-bars on the side here, and they're held in by plates with clips on them.
So the most challenging part of these projects for me, probably the first one would be that back wall that I've mentioned. It was a lot of stacking of 1x1 rounds and making sure they were all going to be the right size. And so to ensure that they weren't just going to completely fall apart if you looked at them wrong, I had to include some decorative elements inside that would also help create some structure and allow the walls to be moved without completely falling apart every time you touched them. So that was particularly challenging. And as far as the Candyland piece, that piece overall was a challenge. I had a rough time with that one, just trying to sort of find the direction that I was going to go in with it. Once I decided on that particular direction, it all sort of fell in place and came together. But it took a little while to get to that place where I was comfortable.
My favorite part of this build is the Avengers A, because that was a very defined shape that is very tricky to recreate in the brick since they're all square. So our new tiles, which are the 2x2 with a diagonal on them here that make the point of the A, that was a super useful piece because I wouldn't have been able to build it this way if that didn't exist. And then for the A, like I said, I used those corner tut tiles to get that arrow shape, and then I used half studs or jumper plates, as they're called, also to get that little bit of black spacing in between the parts.
My favorite parts of some of the models that I worked on, the backdrop of the Mermaid Grotto for sure was a lot of fun. It was extremely time consuming, but once it was finished, it had just like such an incredible look. And when it's lit from behind, it's very luminous because I used all of those transparent pieces, and I tried to vary the colors, so there was a lot of different colors rather than just plain blue all the time. There's purples and greens and yellows in there to kind of add some variety.
It's absolutely amazing being in an atmosphere full of LEGO designers and builders and like-minded people working for the company that actually sparked my hobby. It's wonderful to be here and be able to work on large projects with all of these great people.
Just knowing that my artwork is going to be shown at San Diego Comic-Con in front of hundreds of thousands of people who are then going to be photographing it and posting it to their social media accounts, and even more people are going to see them, is just so exciting. You don't often get a chance to do a piece of artwork that gets such a wide audience, and I just hope that when people do experience my models and do get to sort of interact with them, that it makes them smile and it's something that they will remember.